Hello everyone, it's Trevor here. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes, wait for some stragglers to come in. So you got a couple of minutes to get up and grab a drink or a bite to eat before we get going. Okay, I'm just going to kick things off. Hello everyone once more, and welcome to today's webinar, Improve Your Microsoft Teams Adoption and Governance Using Powell Software, the first of our 4-part series. Thank you once more for taking your time out and being here today. My name is Trevor Weir, Client Executive with Prometix. Joining me today will be Pierre, a Teams Governance Extraordinaire from Powell Software. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you do have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll bring them up during the presentation, and we'll also have time for questions at the end. And if you miss anything at all today, please contact us directly and we will be glad to assist. So why Microsoft Teams and why a series of webinars? In response to the former, at Prometix, we believe in the power and promise of Teams to drive an efficient, focused and centralized modern workplace. The uptake has been incredibly slow, but conversations around Microsoft Teams are starting to move away from it being a juiced up Skype. Calling, chatting and sharing now sitting side by side with business reports, work tasks and workplace insights. With the use of Power Platform, business enablement capabilities can be simplified, allowing you to submit a leave request or an IT ticket with a handful of clicks within Teams. Intranets and SharePoints are now becoming back-end repositories for more interactive and user-friendly Teams channels, with artificial intelligence built in to automate the creation of business wiki pages. Your Microsoft Teams has the power to be so much more than a convenient chat tool. Which answers the latter. There is too much to discuss in just 4 webinars, let alone just 1 webinar. Why not more then? Every business is unique and every business has different user requirements. Not all features will be relevant to all possible attendees, which is why we are focused on the essential features to drive adoption, create an appetite for change, and guarantee a successful modern workplace upgrade. We'll start with the often overlooked and rushed opening step of the implementation, governance. Ensuring ease of use and administration of your teams, ultimately seeking an uptake in positive adoption, and then following with these webinars. Records management in teams with Record Point, how to easily access teams and records with one-place solutions, records migration to Office 365 with Prometix. Following this webinar, we will jump into records management in Teams and Microsoft, tools to create ease of access, and finally the big step of migrating records to Microsoft. Prometix is proud of the breadth of our partnerships, none more so than our Microsoft Gold partnership. We work with our state, federal, and private customers, helping them get the most from their Microsoft investment by enabling them to more easily use and share information as individuals and in teams. We design, implement, and support Microsoft technology solutions that align with our customers' priorities to deliver measurable and tangible positive outcomes. Prometix works across 5 key verticals, taking our customers through the entirety of a digital transformation and its ongoing management. The webinar series focuses on the first of our verticals, the digital workplace and collaboration, but a true upgrade of your modern workplace, being your team's environment, would need to draw on the expertise from all verticals to ensure the business group's adoption. And we have consultants, architects, executives, and even Trev, more than happy to have a chat at your convenience about the further benefits outside of the digital workplace and collaboration vertical. Over the course of the series, I will be introducing you to a few heavy hitters from Prometix and our partners, Pierre being the first. Before I hand you over to Pierre, I'll quickly run you through what we have in store for you today. As the series focuses on the key features to get your team into Teams, Pierre will open with the best practices you need to integrate to promote adoption. As adoption of Teams grow, an ungoverned implementation can rapidly run to ruin. We will be introducing Powell Teams, which simplifies the management of teams and automates some administrative tasks. We will then showcase the end user experience as they become empowered teams owners with what I call regulated freedom to customize their own team's experience. We will then finish with a demo and back to me for some questions for Pierre. Over to you, Pierre.
Awesome, thanks a lot, Trev. Let me just share my screen quickly. Perfect. So you should now be able to see my screen. Perfect. So let me just put that full screen and let's get started with this presentation. So like Trevor mentioned just now, the idea today is that we're going to be looking at first of all, I'm going to give you a bit of a background about Powell Software very quickly so you know better who we are and what we do exactly. Then I'd like to give you a bit of context around the whole Microsoft Teams governance initiative and really give you some of the feedback that we see from the market with some of the scenarios we see talking with customers. And finally, I'd like to give you a bit of a demonstration of Powell Teams so that you can see how the application would look like within a live environment. Now, to kick things off with a bit of a background about Powell Software. So we are essentially a global software vendor. So we're an ISV from a Microsoft standpoint, specialized in digital workplace solutions. One of the things that is really important to highlight is that we are 100% aligned with Microsoft. So we are a Microsoft Gold partner. We are also a top tier partner since January 1st. And the reason why we're so aligned with Microsoft is because we were founded 7 years ago by a Microsoft system integrator back in France. Now, if we fast forward to today, we have 11 offices globally. So I'm myself based out of Sydney, and I look after the Asia Pacific region with a team locally based in Australia here. We support today over 400 customers, ranging from a wide array of industries and sizes, literally from 7 users all the way up to 160,000 users, which represents about 2 million users globally. And so something really important about what we do is that we operate exclusively through a network of partners. So partners such as Prometix, who have the local expertise of their customers, and we're able to really adapt the solutions to your local scenarios within your organization. Last thing I wanted to mention on this slide is that last year we raised $16 million US, which was very timely given the situation globally, and that has helped us, especially in terms of keeping the investment going when it comes to R&D, which still represents about 40% of the workforce for us. The main mission for Powell Software for us is really about helping you connect your employees in the hybrid workplace. To do this, we have two main solutions. I'll start very quickly on the left-hand side with Powell Intranet, which is our flagship solution. This is what we started with 7 years ago. So Powell Intranet is our templated intranet framework that goes on top of SharePoint Online and that helps you with corporate communication and employee engagement, especially. But what we'll really focus on today is Powell Teams on the right-hand side, which is our newest application. Powell Teams is something that we launched just at the start of the pandemic, so just 2 years ago, when we got a lot of feedback from our own customers since rolling out Teams. So in the past, I'd say 3 to 4 years, we got a lot of feedback from customers raising concerns around governance on Teams, around simple things like, how do I control my team's provisioning process? How do I control who is able to create teams? How do I manage the lifecycle of my teams? All these questions that came up that were not covered by Microsoft Teams out of the box. And this is where we saw really a need from the market to build an application and fill these gaps within Microsoft Teams. On top of this, you have Powell 365. Powell 365 is essentially the bundle of Powell Intranet and Powell Teams together. This is our full digital workplace offering. Having said that, you may decide to use either of the solutions as a standalone product. So again, today we'll focus really on Powell Teams, but if you do have any requirement around corporate communication, employee engagement, and SharePoint overall, please feel free to reach out to the Prometix team, as they are actively implementing Powell Intranet projects with their customers at the moment. All right, so what I'd like to do now is just to set a little bit of context around this whole governance topic on Microsoft Teams, really. So just to roll things back a little bit, in the past couple of years, we've seen a massive shift to cloud-based services, including, of course, Microsoft 365. Now, with relevant tools and strategies, companies are equipped to build a strong culture of collaboration and teamwork, which ultimately helps to improve productivity within the organization. If we look specifically at Microsoft Teams, I think we can all agree on it being a catalyst for users to share information and collaborate across departments or even across organizations. On the field, though, this rapid evolution results in far more usage of tools like Teams and SharePoint, for example, in a hybrid context, especially. Now, this is all great, but it also raises lots of questions and concerns for IT departments on how this usage is controlled and monitored from an IT standpoint. It brings a lot of consequences also for the employees and, of course, the IT teams. While MS Teams is making it a lot easier for employees to collaborate generally, IT departments are confronted with an ever-increasing amount of teams, channels, sites, and so on, which can ultimately lead to an uncontrolled sprawl of teams within the environment, and which will hinder productivity for the end users. Oh, I've switched a little too early on the next slide, but that takes me here with the concept of a team sprawl. And that's really what we've seen with a lot of our customers in the past, I'd say in the past 2 years, really. With the start of the pandemic, we've seen obviously a massive increase in usage of Microsoft Teams, and not only for meetings and voice, but also for really the collaboration side of things. So the ability to create new teams and collaborate on specific project within teams, within the teams that are within Microsoft Teams. What a team sprawl can result in can be, I'd say, split in two main categories. First, we see a lot of consequences for IT teams, but we also see consequences for employees. From an IT team standpoint, it's really going to be about seeing a fast-growing number of teams within the environment and not being able to monitor these teams. As a result, you may see a lack of control on your environment, which will eventually result in a painful management of the existing teams within the environment. For the employees, what it can result in is really an overload of information within the environment. So you may end up with users being slightly lost within the environments and not being able to find the right teams they are supposed to join, the right teams they are supposed to collaborate in. And this will result ultimately in disorganization and really a lack of productivity for these users using Microsoft Teams. Now, what we've seen in the market so far, and that's really the result of our discussions in the last 2 years with customers, is two main scenarios for customers using Microsoft Teams for collaboration these days. The first scenario, and that's really the most common one, is a scenario where users have a complete freedom of use. It's a scenario where users can create teams as they want, and they can use all functionalities within Teams without any restriction from IT. Obviously, the upside to this scenario is that you will have high flexibility, a massive freedom of use, and ultimately you will get really good adoption from your users of the platform. But the downside to this scenario is really the lack of control for IT and the lack of monitoring and yeah, the team sprawl that will result with this scenario. On the flip side, what we see as well is customers, and very often it results from a bad experience with SharePoint in the past, is organizations where they have decided to restrict everything within Teams. So the idea is to not let users create teams themselves and have IT manage everything within Teams. The upside to this is obviously great control for IT. The downside is for the end users, which will have low freedom and overall a degraded user experience within Microsoft Teams. With Powell Teams, what we're trying to do here is help you set the right balance, because governance is all about finding the right balance between that freedom of use and the control for IT. So the idea is really to simplify the journey for the users when they are in Teams, to make it effortless and easier for them to collaborate on Teams, while equipping IT with everything they need to have the right amount of control within their environment. And this is why we've built Powell Teams. So Powell Teams, again, is a result of seeing so many of these feedback from customers. And we decided to build it 2 years ago with the aim of helping both IT and the end users. So from an IT standpoint, the goal is really to offer you a tool that will make it easy for you to implement a governance framework within Microsoft Teams. The way we're going to do this is by giving you the ability to build pre-configured templates that users will be using to create their teams. And within this template, this is where you're going to be able to set all your different rules, your best practices, your policies. The goal of Powell Teams also from an IT standpoint is to help you manage your existing teams. And it's really going to be about managing the teams that are within your environment and managing the end of life of all these different teams. From a user standpoint, it's all about making it effortless for users to collaborate within teams. So, and that ties back to these templates I was talking about that an admin will be able to set up for the users. Users, as a result, will be leveraging these templates to create very rich teams very, very quickly. And it's also about making it easier for users to find the information they are looking for and to navigate within Microsoft Teams. Now, that was for the quick introduction on Powell Teams and Powell Software and the overall concept of governance. What I'd like to do now is to go into a demo environment and show you what the application can look like within Microsoft Teams. So let me just open my demo environment here, and here we go. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. All right, so here what I have is our demo environment within Microsoft Teams. Obviously, as you can see, I'm using the web version of Microsoft Teams because this is a demo environment, but the application works exactly the same way within your desktop application, of course. Now, Powell Teams is a Teams application, so it is available directly in the Teams store. If you have the permissions to install applications, you will be able to find it directly there and install it directly from there. I think we'll come back to this a bit later, but Powell Teams is available for a free trial as well. So when you download it, you will be able to enjoy a 30 days free trial that we can use together to build a proof of concept. And this is typically something that the Prometix team is very used to, where we can help you together with Prometix to install this trial and run a proof of concept together and really go into your scenarios internally to build something that is working on your environment and that can help you towards making a decision on your team's governance project. Now with Powell Teams, once you roll it out, you will have access to two main interfaces. First, you have an interface for users, which is the interface you're seeing here. And then you have here an access to an admin center. So it is not the Microsoft Teams admin center, it is the Powell Teams administration center. The admin center is where you will be able to set all of your governance and where you will be able to monitor your environment as well. I will take you through the admin center right after. The idea first is to show you what a user experience can look like with Powell Teams. So here, as you can see on this dashboard, they have access to all of their teams, but now it's not the classic view of their teams. It is not just a list of teams. Here they can see their teams displayed as tiles, making it easier to visualize teams. You can decide to display the most recent documents within these teams, or you could decide to hide it as well. From here, they have the ability to favorite their teams and to have a view on, have different views on their team. So they can have a view on all of their teams, a view on their favorite teams, and finally, a view on promoted teams. The promoted teams are very useful to administrators. These are the teams that administrators will be promoting to end users. One of the classic scenarios here is to look at a new joiner within the organization. When you have somebody joining the organization, the first day they open Microsoft Teams, they don't know what teams they need to be a part of. And this is where they will be able to discover these teams. These teams can be targeted based on user profile. So you could target different teams to different groups of users within the organization. From here, as you can see also on the left-hand side, you have a wide range of refiners. So these are tags that we're going to apply to the teams themselves so that users can search for teams using refiners. And it makes it a lot easier for them to find their teams, especially when they are part of a lot of different teams. Obviously, all these refiners are 100% configurable. So you will be able to configure the refiners you want with as many choices as you want. The last thing you can do from here, and this is really where we're going to add value, is that as a user, you can create or request a new team from here. And the whole point of using Powell Teams to create new teams or to request new teams is that users will not be able to create new teams from scratch anymore. Here in this scenario, they will have to use a template that you have pre-configured with all of your governance policies. What you will also have as part of the template is a pre-configured team. So when they use a template, they will have a new team that is pre-configured with channels, tabs, and applications already pre-configured to make it quicker for them to start collaborating within the team. Now, what we recommend to our customers is usually to disable the classic create a new team button, and we can do that easily so that users have to use Powell Teams and have to use a template to provision their teams. So here as a user, when I open the team creation process, I will have access to a gallery of templates that's targeted to me based on my profile. Here, as you can see, I have a lot of different templates. To be completely transparent with you, a lot of customers would start fairly small with just a few templates. One of the classic scenario is really managing the guest access within the team. So what customers could do is to start with two simple templates. One template for internal teams, which will be very loose in terms of restrictions, given that this is only for internal use. and then a template for external access, where obviously you're going to put in a lot more restrictions to avoid leakage of data, for example. So here in this scenario, what I want to do is just to take you through the process of creating a new team, and then we'll open the admin center to look at what's available in there. So here as a user, I'm going to have to select a template. So let's imagine that I'm an HR manager. I want to onboard a new employee, because that's also the point of these templates, is that you will be also able to streamline repeatable activities for departments within teams. So here, typically, let's imagine I'm an HR manager. I want to onboard a new employee. I can directly go and create a new team that will be used for the new employee for his onboarding. So here, as you can see, as part of this template, when I use it, I will have a team that's got all of these different channels with these different tabs that will be already pre-configured. So here I can just use the template and I can create my team very quickly. And here we're going to make it really a lot easier for them to create teams, because they're just going to have to follow the different steps and just fill in the information that's associated to the template. So I'll start here with the tags. Let's imagine that this new employee is going to be part of, let's say, the sales department. He's going to be based in Australia. And let's imagine I'm onboarding Trevor. So I'm going to type Trevor as a team name. And as you can see here, this is the final team name. So I've got a naming policy as part of the template. So as a user, I do not have control on the full name. That way you have consistency across naming. Then I can go to the next step. All right, here I'm going to be choosing the privacy. As you can see here, I have no choice. It is private by default. So this is a policy that's part of the template. And same here with my owners. So here you can see that I can add team owners, but I already have a default team owner that's been set within the template. So I leave this team owner here, and then I can just add my new team members. As you can see, I have another rule here, which is a minimum of 2 team members. If I don't meet this minimum requirement, I am not allowed to move to the next step. So here I'm just going to add quickly 2 demo accounts. Up. Mark, and now I can move to the next step. And that's pretty much it. Now I just need to review this information. If I'm happy with everything, I just need to give one final consent, which is I just need to validate that I've read the company policy. And here it's not just a box that I need to tick. I need to tick it, but I need to confirm that I've read the company policy, and you will be able to adapt these policies the way you want, of course. And once I've confirmed, I can go and create a team. And here you have the final step that can be part of a template, which is an approval workflow, which ultimately will give you that 100% control on the team creation process. So here, in fact, I've not created anything. I've just sent a request to create a new team. So as a user, I will go back to my homepage, and I just need to wait for the approver to review this request. Once it's approved, I will get a notification here on my homepage telling me that the team has been created, and then I can open my team to work in it. As an approver, so here for the sake of the demo, my user is also an approver. So as an approver, I can also see my latest request, and here we can see the request for Trevor's team. So as an approver, I can come here, review that request, and I can accept it directly from here, or I could decline it. But only if I accept will the team be actually created. So that is for the team creation process. Now, what I'd like to do is to take you through the admin center very quickly. And the admin center, of course, is available only to administrators. They don't need to be a Microsoft Teams admin. Administrators are independent here, so you can set your administrators directly here in the settings of the admin center. When you open your admin center, you first land on an admin dashboard. This dashboard is going to be very useful for you to monitor your environment. So here what you're going to have is a lot of different reports that will give you a nice overview of the health of your environment. So you will have reports, for example, such as inactive teams report. This report is a report that a lot of customers use at the beginning of their project to clean up their tenant. Here, as you can see, on our environment, we have no inactive teams. But I could decide to search for inactive teams based on when is the last time somebody opened a team. And here I can adjust this number if I want to. And I could also combine this with when is the last time a document was modified within that team. Once I identify teams here, what I can do is go and automate the management of these teams. So here you have the ability to associate automations with Pair Automate or Azure automations that will go and take actions on the teams flagged up in a report every single time a report is generated. So that automation, for example, could go and automatically archive all of these teams. Or it could automatically go and send a message to the owners of these teams, asking them what we're doing with these different teams. So again, all these reports will be really useful to monitor and make sure your environment stays neat and tidy. Linked with the reports and with the ability to automate the management of your teams and automate the life cycle of your teams, we have here the bot notifications. So I'm just going to open this very quickly just to show you how you can automate things within Pale Teams. So here you have the ability to enable bots that will directly go and send notifications. So these notifications will be in the chats directly of Microsoft Teams. And these automations will give different actions to approvers or owners of teams. For example, if you have an approval workflow within your template, the approver could receive a notification directly in the chats telling him that a team has been created and it's pending for your approval, and they will be able to take an action directly from here. Same thing applies to, for example, an inactive teams report, where the owner of a team could receive a notification so that you empower users to manage their own teams. And same thing could happen for expired teams or teams that are not compliant with the privacy policy of your template, for example. We're going to keep adding more and more of these bots as we go with the product, of course. The last thing I wanted to show you here in the admin center is the Teams templates, because this is where you will be able to set all of your different rules within your templates. So when I open my templates here, this is where I have a view on all the templates I've built within my environment. From here, you can enable and disable templates for users, and you can create new templates. It's important to understand that you can create as many templates as you want to. And the goal really is to keep it moving. So you may start very simple with, again, 2 templates, one for external teams, one for internal teams, but very quickly you will want to go and start streamlining repeatable activities that involve multiple systems within teams. And to do this, you'll be creating templates based off projects, departments, locations, etc., etc. Now, let me open the employee onboarding template that we saw earlier. So I'm just going to open the template, and when you open a template, you always have the same structure and the same sections. You have your settings, your governance, and then your members. In the settings, the first thing you can see is the team that is behind this template. So this is something important. Just to introduce you the concept of a template, basically the way we build a template is that we're going to take an existing team, we're going to clone that team, and we're going to choose what is it that we want to clone from that team. And this will become the base of the template. So here in this case, what we did is we created a master onboarding team, and we cloned the channels, the configuration of the team, the tabs, and the applications within the tabs. Once I synchronize, I can have here my synchronization result. I can always change this team. I can always change these settings here. All I need to do is resynchronize, and I will be able to update my template. When you update your template, you can choose whether you want to impact the teams that are already using this template within your environment, but it is not mandatory, so that you don't necessarily impact all of your existing teams when you make a change on a template. When you launch your synchronization, this is where you will get a view on what your teams are going to look like with this template. So as you can see here, you can have your channels. So here I've got 5 different channels. And within my channels, because we cloned the tabs and the applications, we have here the tabs and the applications that are associated to these tabs. For example, here for my 30 days plan tab, this is going to be a Microsoft Planner behind the scenes. And here the power of the template is that you will be able to go and configure your planner directly here in the template. That way, when your HR manager in this scenario will be creating a team with this template, they will not have to go and add new applications and configure these applications, because it's already configured here in the template. So their planner with the onboarding steps, for example, for the new employee, will be provisioned by default with the template. Same thing applies here to SharePoint, OneNote. We've done it with Stream as well, but this is not limited to just these applications. It can be extended to all your Microsoft services, basically. You also here are able to upload documentation. So here you can upload a zip file, and this file will be by default in every single team you provision with this template. Because it's a zip file, you can even keep a folder structure, for example. And finally here, this is more of a techie one, but you have the ability here to associate a SharePoint site design to a PL Teams template. The idea here is that, as you know, whenever you create a new team within Microsoft Teams, you create a new SharePoint site at the back, and it's a team site. Now, when you create that team site, you have no control on what the team site is going to look like. Here, the idea is that you will go and associate an existing site design directly from SharePoint, and this site design will be applied to this SharePoint site, to this team site. That way, you don't create just a blank site. Now, if we go to the next section here, you have your governance. So this is where you put the actual rules, basically. You will start here with your naming convention. So you can apply a naming policy to your template. If you decide not to use one, the user will have full control, but you can use an existing one. And here the user will only have control on a specific part of the naming policy. In this case here, they will have control only on the user text. You can also select an approval workflow. So here you can directly select your approvers from your directory. It is a single-step approval workflow, which is very simple. If you had more complex scenarios with multi-step workflows, it is absolutely doable with Pair Automate, for example. The workflow is really important because this is what will give you ultimately that 100% control on your environment. You can also set the privacy at the template level, so you could let the user choose or make it private or public by default. You can associate a company policy, and all of these settings, as you can see, are available directly here. So your company policies, for example, here I've got only one, but if I go and create more company policies, I will be able to see more here. You can set the classification based on data sensitivity at the template level. You can target the template, so this one is really important. You don't want to, so users are already loaded with information within Teams. You don't want to overload them also with templates. So here the idea is that you will be able to target the template so that users coming only from a specific group will be able to see and use the template. Here, for example, it's the employee onboarding template. You want to target it only to your HR group. You can associate tags to the template. So here, typically, these will be the tags that you can see on the end user dashboard to search for teams, the refiners. But you could go and be creative and hide tags for users. For example, here, you could go and create a tag like this one. Why are you creating this team? And this will be just an extra step in the approval review process. You can set here your minimum number of owners and members, which is really important from a governance standpoint, especially to avoid, for example, ending up with a lot of orphan teams when users leave the organizations. You can here set up your expiry date. So this is to control your life cycle. This is really important because the moment you start managing the life cycle of your teams, you don't have to worry about creating too many teams within your environment, given that it will be archived or handled automatically at the back. And finally, here you can associate automations to a template. Automations are very powerful because virtually it can do anything. We can associate automations with Pair Automate or Azure automations or Azure functions, and these automations will be triggered either when you request a team or when you create a new team. Typically, this is one of the main reasons also why we work with partners like Prometix, because a partner like Prometix, on top of the governance plan that goes with the application that will be tailored to your organization, they can also provide you with all these extra customization steps within your environment. Now, with these automations, these are all from PL Teams to an external system, but you could also do it the other way around. So as part of the product, we provide a PL Teams API and a Pair Automate premium connector so that you can even go and automate the creation of teams from external systems. For example, we have a customer that's got a very advanced use case where they have a sales department that responds to lots of RFPs. What they have done is that they have created a template for RFPs, and as part of the template, they will have all the different applications they need to respond to that RFP. But in real life, what they've done is they've automated the creation of these teams from external systems. So in real life, the sales guy receives the RFP, goes into the CRM, creates an opportunity. Based on the criteria of that opportunity, it will trigger an automation that goes and creates a new team with PL teams using that template, of course. And finally, here you have your members, and this is where you're going to be managing something really important, which is the guest access. So here you can say no at the template level, and nobody will be able to add guests to teams that are associated to this template. And even 6 months after creating the team with the template, nobody will be able to add guests to these teams. And finally, here you can manage your default owners that you can pick directly from here. And if you pick a default owner, so I'm going to pick one here, you can even prevent the addition of new owners. And you can also pick default team members if needed. And that is pretty much the demo I wanted to take you through today. Obviously, there is a lot more to the product, but what we'd love to is to go into a session together to look at your requirements specifically. And with that said, over to you, Trevor.
Thank you, Pierre. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Worth mentioning here, I think I might have missed it. Pierre actually sits here in Sydney. So he's sitting over in France, unfortunately for Pierre, but he's still in Sydney. And we have received a few questions, so I'll jump into a few of the questions we have for you, Pierre. Number one is, we have now gone live with our Microsoft Teams. What will happen if we deploy Powell Teams now? Are there any consequences?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it's actually something that we hear all the time, because we've seen very few customers. There's been a couple that have decided to implement the governance as they were rolling out Teams, and obviously great result for them. It's never getting out of control. But for most customers, you've got your existing teams within your environment. You've got a lot of content within your environment, so we need to take that into consideration. So what you can do with PL Teams is to go and apply governance to your existing teams within your environment. The way we're going to do it is very simple. We're going to take an existing team and we're going to apply a template to it.
Perfect. Are you there, Pierre?
Yeah, I am.
Ready for question 2?
Yeah, I am. Please.
We are using custom Teams workflows and connectors. Will this have an impact on Powell Teams?
So obviously, it's hard to respond yes or no just based on this. We would need to understand exactly what has been implemented within the environment. But we've seen plenty of scenarios where we've worked with custom connectors, even integrating with other applications. We don't see this as a problem. The idea for us is we are as compatible as can be with the Pair platform and Microsoft in general. So usually, as long as it's something that we can integrate with a Pair Automate, for example, or with Microsoft in general, we can work with it.
Wonderful. And we have implemented records management features for O365. How will this have an impact?
Yeah, so this is a really good one. It's actually one that we've been through with a customer in Australia very recently. In January, we've onboarded a local council in New South Wales. It was not the first one, but it was the first one that really wanted to make sure that their record management could be connected to PL Teams. And yeah, absolutely possible. So most of the record management system offer connectors to Teams, and we're just gonna plug that connector into PL Teams ultimately.
Easy. Last question. Does the trial version have all of the features?
Yeah, so for all of the governance and lifecycle management features, there is no limitation with the trial. So you will be able to test everything.
Wonderful. And that leads us into the next bit. Good to talk about the trial. We have a special promotion in line with this webinar. So Powell Software and Prometix can offer participants of the webinar a 90-minute session with Pierre and one of Prometix solution architects to set up a trial of Powell Teams. I will be circulating this offer via email, and we'll be following up with a recording of the webinar as well for you to share if need be. So once again, that's a 90-minute session with Pierre and a solution architect to set up a trial of Powell Teams for your company. Easy, and I'll try my very hardest to contact you all within the next week or so for some feedback. And we'll be conducting our second of the webinar series next week, records management in Teams with Record Point. Thank you all once more for your time. Thank you, Pierre, and take care.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Trevor.